First thing we do is we'll open up the digital imaging interface, select a particular form. In this case we're going to work on the Notice of Assessment EFT refund. And we're going to first of all map the indexes used for filing the scanned PDF document. And in this demonstration we're using Virtual Cabinet. So we've chosen the cabinet, we've chosen the section value tax return, and by default the two indexes 2 and 3, which have an asterisk next to it, indicate that they're the mandatory fields for Virtual Cabinet. So we now need to map them. So we're going to map it to the client ID that comes from the document index fields. That is the main index field for index 02. The next thing is currently we map with a space hyphen space, and then we'll add to the client ID and the hyphen we will also add the document index field called client name. So that enables us to build the client ID and the client name for us to file it into index 02 in your Virtual Cabinet system. You may have different settings, but this is what this environment has to offer. The next one is the matter, and you'll notice it's mandatory, and some sites it may not be. But if you want to map the matter, you use the PM attributes matter, and then you will look for the matter ID, map the matter ID by double clicking on it, or you can click the button at the top, says click here to add. The next thing is this environment requires us to have a space hyphen space and then the matter description added to it. So we slowly build up the mapping construct so that we can achieve the correct information that's required to file a record in Virtual Cabinet for index 03. In this case it's the matter. So we're back to the matter entry under PM, and we're using the matter description to pull out the description of the matter. Once we've isolated the scanning document on what year and matter it's related to, it will then associate it. If we click the add button down below, we can see there's a bunch of other indexes that are available to us for filing. So in this case we may choose that we would like to fill index 4 with a description of the document. So once again I'm going to use the document index field to use the document description value, and I can just drop the document description by double clicking on it or clicking click here to add. I might want to continue building the construct by saying also I wouldn't mind having, for example, the year added to it. So I would like to have a space hyphen space and then add the document's financial year value. If there are any other indexes, of course you can keep hitting the plus sign and continue adding those values. The next thing is we're going to look at what events are assigned to the form, and there's no events at the moment, so we're going to add the tax assessment event. So this first event, the tax assessment event, is applicable of course to a Notice of Assessment EFT refund. So we've chosen the event to run straight after we file the document, and we now need to map the data to the tax assessment system. So for the financial year we use the document index field financial year. For the fee earner we will choose a nominated fee earner within PM that has the rights in Tax Manager to actually add an assessment. There is an index field on the document called amended, and it's usually got a value of a yes or a no. If it's an amended return, it will contain a value to help us isolate if it's going to be an amended return we're updating. The rest of it is basically mapping according to the document index fields. So if there's an actual payable field, we'll map it. If there's not, then we skip it. If there's an actual refund field, in this case it is, because it's a Notice of Assessment EFT refund, so I'd expect to see a refund field. In this case, this document has both the result of the notice payable field and a result of the notice refundable, meaning that the EFT return could actually have an assessed that is actually a payable. However, there could be some other transactions that make it an EFT refund at the end. So all we're doing is looking at the document index fields, finding the correct value and making sure that they're all mapped. If you're not using some of these index fields because you feel it's not of any value to the business, then you can disregard mapping index fields like other payable, other refunds. You may not even be interested in PAYG or even interested in general interest charge, but that's something you need to talk to your tax team about, because if they want that information posted into Tax Manager, then you need to enable those indexes and you need to map them to make sure that you're collecting the correct data. So you're just going through the motion of mapping each index field that's available to you, because on the left hand side are all the indexes that are to do with tax assessment. In this case, you can see the date payable wasn't available. These are extra indexes in the tax assessment system called statement of account. For those that are using it, they usually put a yes or a no in there if you want to. If you want to update the index field date sent to client with the current date, you just need to add a value of the letter Y for yes to put the current date, what you scan the document at, and it will post the current date into Tax Manager. Also, you have an option if you want to update the status from lodged to finished. You just need to add a text constant of the word finished if that's the actual word that you use and the process you use to change the notice of assessment from a lodged status. So the next stage of mapping is we need to ensure that not only have we mapped the values for the PDF document, we've not only mapped our events, but each form requires a unique attribute or an ADI code assigned to it. This unique ADI code is configured against the standard matters. So, for example, Accounting and Tax Standard Matter 2017 will contain an ADI code value of ACC. So what that means to us is every time we see a Notice of Assessment EFT refund, and we pick up from the document a particular financial year, let's assume 2017, then it'll look for that particular client's matters for the year 2017. If it finds multiple matters for 2017, it will only look for a matter that has an ADI code of ACC. So therefore, if the document contains the ADI code of ACC, the system will be able to determine which tax matter is related to the Notice of Assessment EFT refund for 2017. You may find that you may have some BAS forms and you may have a particular matter for your BASs, a different year structure and a different standard matter. And you might choose to say that for a BAS form of a 14167 quarterly BAS, you might choose an ADI code of BAS. And then if we look at the standard matter structure, you might find that the client has a 2017 standard matter called quarterly BASs, and it has an ADI code of BAS. So that's how our system's able to determine which matter is associated to which form so that it can correctly file it and update Tax Manager because it's matter-centric. If you find that you have two matters for the same financial year using the same ADI code, the system will fail to file the document. It could also fail to update Tax Manager in the case of a Notice of Assessment or a Statement of Account, and it'll indicate that it's most likely due to a duplicate matter found. So you need to sort out your matter structure so that each form contains a structure, an ADI code that is pertinent to the types of forms you're processing. So once again, for example, your Notice of Assessment EFT refund, we currently configure our systems to use a code of ACC. It basically means accounting. So you can make up your own codes under attributes. You don't have to use our values, but we use the standard acronyms of ACC, BAS and things like that. The next step after you've done all your mapping is that you may want to duplicate all of those settings against all the existing forms that map your Notice of Assessment EFT refund. Look for the how-to video on how to duplicate forms. Thank you.